So before we do B in the calculator, we need to write it down, right? So we're going to write down our slope. It's the difference in the y's over the difference in the x's. Our y values, based on these x values, would be k of 5.605 minus k of negative 0.663. And then make sure those match up underneath, 5.605 minus a negative 0.663. Okay? Your notation, what you write down, is very important. We don't have to show any other work because the calculator is doing it all. So once we write that down, then we go to the calculator. If you're on the graph screen, remember to get to the other screen. You can use your cursor if you want, but sometimes the cursor is frustrating. But if you do Control left, you're back here. And again, you might have some stuff typed in. I do not. So I want to start with a fraction. In order to do that, it's Control divide. Okay. And then I'm going to type in almost exactly what I wrote down. Remember, I can't use K. We have it stored in F1. So F1 of 5.605 minus F1 of negative 0.663, and then down here, 0.605 minus a negative 0.663. I would always double check what you typed in versus what's on your paper because it's easy to hit the wrong number or, something, whatever. And then hit enter. And when we hit enter, some of us will get one answer, some of us might get another answer. Why that is happening right now? Actually, I don't even know if it's going to happen to me on this one because this is my actual desktop one, not the one I had to use yesterday. So let's see what this one gives me. Oh, this gives me the same thing that I got yesterday. So did some of you get that? Did any of you get a number that doesn't look weird like that? Yeah. I can't figure out what setting is different and why. There's really no need for it to get dramatic with this number like that. It's just not. But let's talk about what this number means. Now, I don't remember that happening at all last year. I don't think that's going to happen on your AP stuff. But this is general knowledge that you need. It might be on the SAT. It's something you still have to know how to handle. Okay, so let's just take a little side trip here. So, and write this down regardless of whether or not you got it. We had negative 6.8, negative 4. Okay. So it's still important to know what the heck that means. Because sometimes just knowing that that means that's in either a really big number or a really small number is enough for what we need. All right. But, and it's gonna be a negative number because of this right here. All right. Because of the negative 7. But what this is negative 7 times 10 to the negative 4th. It is scientific notation. Okay. And if I have 10 to the negative 4th, does that make it a really small number or a really big number? Really small number, right? So that means that I'm going to have, so I have this negative, right? There's a negative there. And then I have this 7, and the point was right here, right? That negative 4 means I go 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I put my decimal place there, and I fill in all the little valleys here with zeros, and that's what I get. And that's what you got if you didn't get the weird number, right? And I will figure out what setting that is because our calculators are not in scientific notation mode. I don't know what's going on, and it might just be one of those weird things. I don't know. But what I think the intention of this was really, and this is kind of a good little side lesson too, I think the intention of this question was for us to get 0. Because I'm pretty sure that these two numbers are the zeros of the function, so we should get the slope of a horizontal line. But the reason it doesn't count, because that's a small number. It's not so crazy small it's close to 0, but it's pretty small. Like if that's how much money you have, you pretty much have no money. Or if you owe somebody that, that's not even a penny. So, but either way, one of the reasons it doesn't come out to 0 is because these numbers are rounded because they become crazy decimals. This is why we don't round along the way. When we do end up rounding stuff and have to do stuff with our rounded numbers, we store them or do some other things. Because if you round and then use the rounded number, you lose accuracy. Okay, so whatever. But that's what we got. Everybody okay with that? All right, so for for C, I'm just going to give you C. Let's write it down. I'm going to give you the answer, and then we're also going to type in D because we don't need to spend all this time typing everything. So let's write this down. You try and write down your fraction without looking up here, without me saying it, and then you can check yourself, make sure you can do it right. And if you were to type that in, you would get 10.6005. Everybody okay with that? So don't worry about typing it in, because again, that's just, I'd rather have more time to work at the end. We will do this one though. So go ahead and write down D. Double check that we have it written correctly. And we are going to type this one in. So nope. So I want to start with a fraction, so I don't have to worry about parentheses. Oh my goodness, I'm sure it's F1. F1 of 10 minus F1 of 2.470. And then tell me if that is what you got. The answer should actually be no, by the way. I got to this part in one class yesterday. I don't know which one it was, but and I accidentally made a mistake. So last period, I made a mistake on purpose to talk about it, and then I was going to make a mistake on purpose in the denominator here, but I made the same stupid mistake in the numerator that I did yesterday. So, what's your question, hon? Is it calculating? What's happening? Function is not defined. You don't have your graph in there. And you have scratch pads somewhere. Yeah. You have to have the graph in there. Oops. I can't go to print. Oh, you were in Scratchpad. We can't go to Scratchpad. You have to be in a document. New document. Yeah. Is this not the calculator you used yesterday? Yeah. You have to you have to add a calculator and add a graph. Okay. So I wanted to make this mistake again because it was kind of another teachable moment. Let's say that you did make a mistake. I want to show you what else you can do on this calculator that can be handy. And it can be handy in a lot of ways. So you see what I did? I think what's happening, because I didn't even do this on purpose, I think I didn't go down far enough to hit my 0, and I'm hitting the 1. That should just be 2.47, or I think I was trying to hit the 0. But either way, I don't want to have to retype that. Now, that's not that big of a deal, but it is a lot of button pushing, and I'll probably mess up again. So instead, what you can do, if you have something that either you made a mistake, or all I need to do is change one number in this nonsense that I've typed in, if I arrow up and it's highlighted in blue, anything that's highlighted in blue, when I hit enter, it pops it back down here. Now I can just arrow over and I can delete out that 1 and I don't have to redo everything, and there's my answer. Okay, so that's just like calculator knowledge for you right there. So I was pretty close, and actually if I'd have written down 4 decimal places, I would have been right because I was just barely off. But this is what it's going to look like if it's not exactly 4 like this is. So it's just something I wanted to point out to you. So this is negative 6.3995, I think. As soon as I click off of it, I forget what the number is. Yeah. All right, so then here are our slopes that we found. Got a lot of mess going on here, so we're going to, here we go. All right, so we want to figure out which statement is true. about K is correct. So A says K has a positive rate of change. Do you agree with that? Yes? All right, I like A. B says K has a positive rate of change on that interval. You agree with that? No, so I don't like B. C says K has a negative rate of change. Do you agree with that? No. D says K has a negative rate of change. Do you agree with that? Yes. Okay. So there are two right answers here because there's a mistake. Okay. Now a little disclaimer here. Last year we were creating stuff for a brand new course. It's a lot more complicated than you might imagine. This year kind of sounded good. Hey, we have all this stuff created, but now we're trying to fix it to make it better and fit things better, which means there's still going to be mistakes anytime somebody creates something from new. Does that make sense? So on the actual tests and stuff, even though I know there was a mistake on your quiz today, but that shouldn't happen. I think that it's just the nature of having brand new material. So really both of those are true. Everybody okay with that? Any questions? Alrighty. So now let's look at example 6. The table gives a life expectancy of U.S. females born in any given year over successive 50-year intervals. Over which of the following intervals is the average rate of change the greatest? Okay, anytime you see average rate of change, that means most likely you are going to calculate slope, old school slope way, right? Notation is still important. We're not going to have the K of type of stuff here because that's not how this is set up. We actually have the numbers and it's not written as a function for us, like as an equation. But we do know we have to do change in Y over the change in X. So we got to make sure we know the difference between the X's and the Y's, or the independent and the dependent. It's okay to call them X and Y. So we have birth year versus life expectancy. Which one would be our independent variable? Birth year, yeah. So your birth year as the birth year, so this would basically be our X, and then this would be our Y. So your life expectancy depends on what year you were born, because that's how things change, right? So I still need to show some work if this is not a multiple choice question, so we always practice like it's not, because we will have a lot of them that are not. So for A, we still have to write down, okay, Y minus Y, so this would be 4610 minus 41.24 over 1850 minus 1800. Now, I really prefer the function notation because I think it helps you line things up so you don't flip things around. Make sure that 4610 goes with 850 and that they're lined up, okay? Now, let's talk about some calculator stuff again. And that is this. Now, I could, because I don't need the graph here, I could just type the stuff in and that's fine. But if I need a graph, or usually when you start another question, it's best to start from scratch so nothing's stored and nothing's going to be wonky. So we're going to hit on, and I can actually do this with you this time. 1 for new. Then we're going to say no, there's no need to save that. And then this time we just need to add a calculator. We never, ever, ever, now just stay here, but don't go to Scratchpad like ever. It does not work the same way as anything else, so we just ignore the Scratchpad, do everything with documents, okay? All right, so we're here. Don't need a graph or anything. We don't need to graph it. We literally just need to type in that information we wrote down, so Control divide, and we have 4610 minus 41.24 over 1850 minus 1800. Okay. 0.097. So what I think here is, I think you can punch numbers in the calculator, right? I wanted to make sure you understood how to do it with the graph. So we're going to set up the rest of them because we're going to come back and talk about this one when we do the next lesson to talk about how to look at it a different way. But I'll just give you the decimals so we don't spend the time typing and you'll have more time to work on other stuff. So let's go ahead, and you could probably set up the rest of these without me. Go ahead and do that to make sure that you know how to do it correctly, assuming we can all do slope. goodness, the handwriting is going off the rails here. While you finish writing those, I'm going to hand out your assignment, and we'll talk about this after, but just use this time to do that. You don't have to type them in unless you just want to. For who? Yes, she was here this morning, so she got it. We're good, but thank you. Okay, so like I said, I'm pretty sure you can type those in as long as you know how to get to the calculator and stuff, and you'll get these numbers. But we want it to be the greatest. If we want it to be the greatest, what's the answer? C. Okay. Like I said, we're going to look at this a little bit differently. I don't know if it's going to be tomorrow or Monday maybe when we do the next lesson. Okay. Any questions at all? We good? The calculator will get easier and easier, and it won't be weird after a while. So go ahead and get your notes taped in. I do want to do the first question on your assignment with you because I want to make sure that you understand the expectations of what needs to be written down. Okay? So if you'll grab that, go ahead and grab that even if you haven't taped your stuff in yet. Let's just do this real quick because some of y'all will tape slow and then some of y'all can get to work. Actually, we only have 2 minutes. We're going to have any time to work. I'm sorry. I tried to give you time to work. Okay. So we're going to find the average rate of change for the following functions and show all work. I want the average rate of change on this interval. I'm going from 1 to 6. So I need to write P of 6 minus P of 1 over 6 minus 1. I need to see your average rate of change, your slope, written as a quotient with function notation. Then we substitute stuff in. P of 6 is 1, right? Minus P of 1 is negative 2. 6 minus 1 is 5. What's 1 minus a negative 2? 3. And so my answer is 3/5, and that is it. You never, never, ever change a fraction to a decimal. Ever. The only reason you should have decimals as an answer is if you're given decimals in the question, or if it's a calculator question that's spitting out decimals for you. The only question on this assignment is a calculator question, is number 4, that actually says, use your graphing calculator. Okay? So the other ones would be expected for you to do it without a calculator. All right, we good on all that? All right, so you probably do have time to tape your stuff in. Sorry, I thought, whoosh.